Buongiorno again from Sicily. Today I am in Palermo and I'm at the Palazzo dei Normanni, which is the Norman palace. It was the seat of the Norman government. The Normans actually ruled Sicily in the 10 and 1100s, more or less, up to the 1200s, and they were the rulers who built up Palermo into the beautiful capital it is today. So what I want to take you to see today is the Palatine Chapel. It is one of the great works of Byzantine mosaic because at the same time the Normans hired Byzantines from Constantinople to come and decorate one of the great chapels. It was started by Roger II, who was one of the greatest kings of the Norman period. This is also the home of the Sicilian Parliament. It was a palace and then later converted into the Sicilian Parliament House, and they meet here. So you can't always get into the apartments to see the royal apartments, but you can today because it's a Monday. During the working week, it's not available. So let's go take a look at the chapel and the apartments. Monreale is famous for being the place with the best Byzantine mosaics in Sicily. I really like this small chapel because look how close we get to these ones. These mosaics are much closer. You can see the detail much better than in Monreale. So it's a little sort of tiny version, like a jewel box. And you can see all the stories of the Bible. The descriptions of each story I think are wonderful. They're stylized in mosaic that remind me a lot of Roman mosaics, which they would have been very similar. The Roman mosaic artisans moved to Constantinople when Constantine changed the empire from being centered in Rome to being centered in Constantinople. And then that style of artwork persisted for like 1,000 years. So this is a very old kind of artwork, and it lasts for a long time because it's so durable. The way the people are dressed is sort of fascinating too. They look like Byzantine kings and emperors. But above all, the glittering gold is beautiful, and the mixture of cultures, the Greek Byzantine, this is a Greek Byzantine Christ, and we have, of course, the Moorish Arabic ceilings, Muslim architecture, in a Roman Catholic church. So it is truly a multicultural work of architecture. We call it Arab Norman style. Upstairs here at the Norman Palace we have the Hall of Hercules, which has the labors of Hercules, not all of them, but most of them. And this is where Sicilian Parliament meets. The Sicilian region is actually an autonomous region within Italy, and it has one of the oldest parliaments in all of Europe. So if you happen to be here on a weekend, you can access this room. When they're in session, obviously you cannot, but it's fun to come and see where the laws of Sicily are made. So now I'm on the upper floors of the Norman Palace. This palace was initially started as a fort by the Phoenicians around the 8th century BC. Then it was used by the Arabs as a fortress and later turned into a palace by the Normans who arrived around the year, let's say 1100 more or less. So right now we are going to enter into the palace's apartments because this was also used as the home of the royals from Sicily, the Bourbons. So let's go and see what kind of situation they lived in. In the 17 and 1800s, the Bourbons were the kings of Sicily, and this was their receiving room. You can see the portraits of all the viceroys. So the Spanish had somewhat colonized Sicily. It's a little complicated, but they ruled Sicily until the mid-1800s. So we're going to exit out of here and go check out their receiving rooms of the royal palace. So the Bourbon family ruled Naples and Sicily together. It was called the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies in the 19th century. And this room is decorated in a style reminiscent of Pompeii. It's called the Pompeian style. So Neoclassicism was sort of the big thing in the 19th century. And in this case, they were copying the excavations, what they found in the ancient past. So beautiful paintings here in the Hall of the Pompeian frescoes. So here in the Norman Palace, we have reached the Norman part of the structure, left the same as it was at the time of the Norman Kings. This is going to date from probably near 1100 because it's during the reign of William I, who was the son of Roger II, who was known as William the Bad, apparently. Not as good a king as Roger was, but beautiful mosaic decoration, especially on the ceiling with the animals, griffins and lions. This is part of what they call the Tower of the Winds. And it has a definite Norman castle feel. Unfortunately, it's under restoration right now, but in the ceiling there's also some beautiful mosaics that are usually available to see. And then passing out of here, we go back into the royal apartments, that perfect blend of the ancient Norman buildings and buildings added on to 400 or 500 years later. So what makes a visit to Sicily so interesting and compelling is the multiculturalism and the layers of history. So we have a palace built on Phoenician walls, later turned into an Arab stronghold, then a Norman palace, and then the home of the Bourbon Kings. So Sicily is like this, many, many cultures all tied together, and part of the success of this island has been the multiculturalism. So it makes it interesting and beautiful, and that's why I love Sicily so much. So you can see all of that here at the Norman Palace in Palermo. So you should come for a visit.